Hey everyone, morning guys. Okay, so welcome back to your Datacom lecture. We are in week 5. I get this correct. I start to lose count after week 4. Okay, so I think we are in week 5 and then we are doing our lecture 4 for this week, which will be on IP subnet rules. Okay, so if you're ready, I know it's really early. Grab a cup of coffee and then we will spend the next 2 hours to understand more about IP subnet, which makes the whole internet work. But before that, one more thing. Let me start the class by telling you something that you should know. This is how I wake you up early in the morning. This is even better than coffee. Okay. Now, this Saturday, if you haven't already noticed, you'll be having your quiz 1. So this is the first, I think the very first test that you will have in Datacom. So yeah, so far we haven't have any assessment yet. It's like, okay, if you think Datacom is like that, if things are going smoothly for 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, that means something is wrong. Things cannot be so peaceful. If you think that life is good, something is wrong. You must have already forget something. Okay, so quiz 1 is on this Saturday, not next Saturday. This Saturday, so it starts from 10 in the morning to 10 p.m. It doesn't mean that you have to sit there for the whole day. So the test is only for 2 hours, but you can do this anytime you think is more convenient for you. So if you cannot wake up in the morning, you can always do it late at night. But just make sure you finish it before 10 at night, alright? Okay, so you'll be doing that on Weber. Okay, that means on the day you can either come here and then click on this link here. There's a link here that you can click, and then it will bring you to the quiz page. So this is, you will see something like this, and yeah, that day you will see when the time is right, you will see the quiz questions here. So this one is 20 questions, multiple choice questions, which can be a good thing because you only have 4 options. Just pick the right one. Before you pick randomly, you pray and then you come and pick the right answer. Okay, this test is not too difficult. If you have followed the video earlier, lecture 1, 2, 3, and 4, so again it covers for lectures 1, 2, 3, and 4. So until today's lecture, we finish this class, you have to study until this video, by the end of this video. That is the scope for quiz 1. Now if you do that, then it is going to be quite easy for you. But if you don't, then it will be easy for me to mark. That will be the other way around. So you think like you want it to be easy for you, or you want it to be easy for me to mark. Okay, and then that is also lab 1. Okay, now lab 1 is also part of the quiz. Now it doesn't mean that you need Eagle server to do lab 1. You do not need virtual machines, but you need to understand the concept that you have learned in lab 1. Okay, because part of the questions actually come from things like nmap, IP config, stuff like that, which you already pick up in your lab 1. Okay, so yeah, this is what I want to tell you, everything that you need to know for your quiz 1. If you have any questions about the quiz that you'd like to know further, please let me know on the YouTube chat right now, that I can answer to you directly. Okay, so this is your quiz 1. Just remember to come to this web page and then you can just click here that will bring you to your lab. Your quiz. Okay, ignore the picture on the left. This two is the fake picture. These are those kind of picture that they put on website to cheat university student. I think when you come here, you also think this will be your university life. But now you are sitting in front of your PC, wearing your PJ. Maybe you didn't even brush your teeth yet. So this kind of picture, you don't want to look at it. It's so fake. I think this guy here is thinking, how long more do I have to hold my smile? So fake. This is so fake. Okay, anyway, if you're okay with your quiz 1, let's go back to our IP subnet rules. Okay, what about the lab 1? So like I said earlier, lab 1 will be part of the test, but you don't need Eagle server. It is not a practical test, so you don't need to do anything like run any program or anything. No, you just need to understand the concept that you have learned from your lab 1. Okay. After 2 hours, the answer will be submitted No, it will not be submitted. You need to click on the submit button, okay? Then it only be submitted. Can we watch the video on your website for revision? Of course, that is why I make the video on YouTube, so that you can watch the video everywhere you go. You can also bring me into your toilet, that is okay. But when you watch the video, I think you can play them in 2x speed so that you don't have to watch them in the same speed lah, once you already know some of the concepts, okay? Now, let's talk about what we want to learn today. IP subnet rules. Okay, now this, I want to be upfront and honest to you. This lecture is going to be a little bit traditional. You have slides. So all the while we do lecture 1, 2, 3, we don't have that much of slides. I mean, most of the slides are just companion slides. Now for lecture 4, this slide is very important. It is your main reference. So when you study for lecture 4, you should be using the slides as we learn about IP subnet rules. Okay, which also means that this can be a little bit boring, especially in 8 in the morning. But somehow we have to learn and understand these subnet rules. Okay, why is this important? You see, the whole internet works because you have an IP address. If today I want to talk to your PC, my PC want to talk to your PC, I need IP address. You need IP address. So the problem is that right now in this world there are too many users and too many company or manufacturers who has a little bit of control of the IP addressing. So let's say today, let me give you a more relatable example. Like, okay, Intel is a network card manufacturer. Remember the other day when I asked you to check what is your MAC address, most of you say, okay, and Intel is the company who make your card. Now, and then Apple is a PC manufacturer or computer manufacturer. Now, let's say we don't have rules. Okay, rules is important because it means that everybody should follow the same principle. Now, without this kind of rules, today Intel can say, I'm not happy with Apple anymore. I don't want to be friend anymore. Then he can make a different kind of IP address that doesn't work with Apple computer. Now, if that happens, that means all your iPhone user cannot talk to your Android user. Your Android user cannot talk to your iPhone user. So if you want to find a girlfriend and you cannot afford an iPhone, you can only find a girl who is using Android. Something like this. This is just an example, okay? Not offensive. Now, which means that somehow, somewhere, someone have to say, okay, this has to be controlled. Everyone must follow the same rule. You cannot say, today I like to do something else, and then I make a new IP, and then only I support my own device. If you want me to support your own other variants of machines, you need to pay me money. Then it becomes mafia situation. Okay, now in that case, I think it's the same in your house. I think like every house you also have rules. For my case, okay, let me give you my own example. Every time I want to hang out with my friend, I have to ask for permissions. But normally I'll ask my dad first, because if I ask my mom, I already know the answer is no. So I'll ask my dad, can I go and hang out? And my dad, if he's in a good mood, he will say yes lah. So that is the rules. In my house, I have to follow the rules. Before I can go out, I want to get permission from my dad. Okay, but I don't know. In my house, the real boss is not my dad. The real boss is my mom. So sometimes when I ask my dad, can I hang out? He will say, ask your mother. If your mother say can, then you can. So yeah, every house have different boss. But that, what I want to tell you is that every place, everywhere you go, there are their own rules. So in IP addressing, the rules are called IP subnet principles. These are the rules that control all company and manufacturers. We have to apply to these rules. Okay, now who is the elders? Of course, when you say rules, some people have to control. Like if you watch Loki right now from Disney Plus, I think they have this thing called the time variant. So some people is controlling the time. There are 3 elders. Okay, so in internet, we also got this elder. It's called Ayana. I think we have talked about this guy. So this is the big boss that control the rules. If you break the rules, they will punish you. Okay, they don't reset the timeline, but they will punish you. No IP address for you. Okay, so now today we will learn about these rules, and there are about 11 of them. So the way we learn this, I don't want you to later on go and remember this wording. Okay? There is no use for you to remember any of this. You just need to understand. And as you understand, it will just come naturally to you. Okay, this is what it means. And by the end of this lecture, we will tie everything together using one example. And if you can do that example, that means you actually understand every subnet rules that I'm going to show you here today. Alright, so this is subnet rules number 1. Okay, now, like I said, it will be a little bit boring because we are going through the slides, but we have to. So, first one, every IP address in the network, within the network, has to be unique. Okay, so the first rule is saying that in the same network or in the same LAN, okay, these two words are the same thing. You cannot have two devices that use the same IP address. Okay, I'm talking about private IP address here. So in a LAN, two devices cannot share the same private IP. So that is why it says that the IP address has to be unique, means that it is only used by one machine in one network. So this thing means it is in a network, it's not the whole internet. Remember what we call private address. Okay, the other day, remember I asked you to type your private IP on the YouTube chat, and then most of us get something like 192.168.something.something. Alright, so you can see it is kind of repeating. Maybe on my side, I can use the same IP that you are using right now. That's okay, because that is private IP and they're supposed to be reused by different networks. Okay, now, but in the same network, you cannot have two guys using the same IP. So of course, first thing is you need to know what is the LAN boundaries. Like in this network here, first thing that we should do is we want to know where is the network. Okay, and in fact, we already learned how to do this. The trick is you always look at the router interface. Every router interface will give us one network. Alright, okay, this is the classic example that I used the other day. So if you have a router and then you have two ports connected, okay, so here you have one network, here you have two networks. This is the trick that we learned the other day. Okay, so using this concept here, the first thing I want you to try this morning is, based on this topology, can you tell me how many networks that I have here? That's the first thing. So the way I do it is, I look at routers. So I'm going to do this from left to right, starting from router 2 here. So over here I have one port and two port connected. So here I already have one network. This is one network. Okay, now here I have another network. Okay, but I don't want to draw first because this is a bit of special case. Now let's look at router 0. Router 0 here, I have one ports connected, two ports connected. So here is another network. But if you have two routers that connect to a switch, you don't count them as two, you count them as one network. So this whole thing is actually one big network. Okay, now let's look at router 1. Router 1 also got two, so 1 and 2. So on the left side here, you will have another network. Again, you don't want to count this as two. Two routers connected together is counted as one network. And then the last network is actually here on the right. So in fact, if you do this, you will see there are actually 4 different local area networks here. Okay, now rules number 1 says in a same LAN, you cannot use the same IP. Okay, otherwise you will have a problem called IP conflict. So look at this green color example. I have PC0 here. PC0 IP is 192.168.1.1. This is a static IP that I assign to PC0. Based on rules 1, this PC1 cannot use the same IP. So if I go here and type 168.1.1 for PC1, this is wrong because it's the same IP. Now if you do this, two things can happen. First, if your router is smart, it is able to detect that it's an IP conflict. So if when you're trying to do something like this, he will tell you, this IP has already been used by someone else. You cannot use this IP. Okay, that is if your router is smart. Now, sometimes your router will not catch this, and you can actually go ahead and assign two devices have the same IP. Then you have this thing called IP conflict. This is a problem that will happen in the network. Okay, so when you have IP conflict, what it means, like sometimes you will feel like the network is acting weird. Why sometimes I can see a website, but a few minutes later I cannot? That is because if you have two devices having the same IP, your packet will be lost. Now, for example, think of this example. Let's say a server here send a data to PC0 in this kind of IP configurations right now. Okay, so the packet go to the router. By right, it's supposed to go to PC0. Okay, this is the right way. But if let's say another guy in your same LAN use the same IP, so sometimes they might be confused and they send it to this guy because they thought this is the correct destination. So IP conflict is not good because sometimes you will lose packet. If this happen, then PC0 will be, where is my data? Where's my data? He will be waiting. So packet loss. This is not a good thing. But another example, like if this is a home network, okay, then you're watching my video right now. If you have IP conflict, tomorrow your mother will also saw my video on the recommendation. Or let's say like this, then when you're using WhatsApp, suddenly you get a message from Jane. Jane, what a beautiful name. Then she say, how are you, daddy? You are so sweet. Oh my god, who is Jane? Who is Jane? I don't have Jane. I don't have a sister named Jane. Okay, so someone else in the house is doing something weird lah. Okay, you don't have to ask too much. Now this is IP conflict. Okay, we want to avoid this. So with rules number 1, we can already avoid this kind of problem. Okay,